What it do, anime crew? Hey man, listen, today I just finished watching, or playing, kind of watching, I'll explain that later, Reanimal, which is the newest game from Tarsier Studios. They created Little Nightmares and Little Nightmares 2, and I've seen a lot of people talking really recklessly about Little Nightmares and Little Nightmares 2 compared to this game. Little Nightmares 3 was a big disappointment because people didn't realize that it wasn't made by the same team as the first two games. And so obviously it probably wasn't going to have exactly the same magic as those games. But this was, like, in a better sense, the true successor, I would say. And it was worthy of that title. I think I want to start off with what it did do better than those games. I can see the increased production value allowing for this game to be a bit more ambitious with its shot compositions and level designs. One of the interesting things about Little Nightmares is that it is not first person, it's a third person horror game that sort of had this like dollhouse, especially in the first game, dollhouse like camera angle, where it admittedly, you know, with a few exceptions, did feel a bit like 2.5D as opposed to like actually 3D the way this game does. This game has a little bit more exploration. You can move around a bit more freely, though at the same time, unfortunately, with all this production and with all this admittedly beautiful imagery, I mean, there's some extremely striking shots, some extremely terrifying level designs, and some really great stuff here. Just as much, the production is a bit janky. This is $40 for a 3-hour long game, and then they're going to charge more for the DLC. And the game's glitchy. It's glitchy. There's a lot of weird stuff with the characters kind of like flying around, or like objects flying out and then flying back. Maybe if you didn't encounter these on your playthrough personally, this isn't going to make much sense to you because I'm not describing it very well. But the big thing is, besides all the little minor visual glitches that didn't really have any effect on gameplay, I just got cut off at the end. I didn't get to play the ending because it glitched out, and so I closed my app and reopened it. I had my friend who I was playing with close his app and reopen it, and screen just went black, and then it wouldn't load, and so we weren't allowed to do the final scene of the game. Apparently that's a fairly common problem. Apparently there have been some streamers and YouTubers who have done playthroughs where they've had that same problem. I think it's unacceptable that you release a $40 game that's 3 hours long with such a glaring problem like that in it. I think there's no excuse for that. And honestly, I was kind of upset about it. I was definitely kind of upset about it. But overall, I would say that was a pretty big... My cat is jumping all over me. A pretty big strength of the game was that symbolism. However, and I need to think a little bit more on the story, admittedly. I can tell the general imagery of the cycle of trauma, the sacrificial lamb, and how that relates to sacrifices during wartime of the common man. There's this one scene where the guy's playing the piano before he gets his head sniped off, and there's this one guy who made like a 10-minute long video where he was like, "Oh, it is the representation of finding mundanity and security as the world falls down around him, as he grasps out for one last whiff of humanity and familiarity amidst the world." And it's like, I could have made just as long of a video. I was telling my friend about how I could just as easily make a video with a slight accent where I talk about the cute scene where one character pushes the gas and the other character drives the wheel on the ice cream truck. And I was like, it's an expression of defiance in a dilapidated world hell-bent on stripping you of your humanity. It is an expression that as long as we hold on to human connection and our empathy, that we are able to find moments of solace in this ramshackle world so determined to burn us down. Or like, some like stupid shit. That's like what it is. That's all the glaze I see. It's also vague. This game is quite vague, and it's war is bad symbolism, and I need to think about it more, but it's a lot of war is bad symbolism, I'm not gonna lie, and it's ballsy. A lot of it's very effective, suicidal imagery and whatnot, that I thought was, from an art design perspective, well executed. It just did ring slightly hollow to me. Like, I'm trying to get at something deeper here that just isn't there. And maybe that'll be further explored in the DLC. Maybe a lot of my complaints will be alleviated, but I'm not sure, because I also had a really big problem with the combat in this game. The auto-aim spears the auto-aim, like knife and crowbar as weapons, they just make you feel a little bit too capable, and they're just not engaging. Like, I'm not stressing when I'm throwing the spheres at those like bloat enemies in the water, because it's just the game's aiming for me. I'm not tripping about it. I'm not upset. I'm not like stressed. Like, oh my god, I have to make sure I throw this right. It's gonna do everything for me. When the birds attack you or when the clay children attack you, it's like, all right, I'm just gonna spam the attack stick and the game will auto aim for me. It's not deep combat. It's not engaging combat. It's not good combat. And I think that actually also extends to the puzzles. I feel like there were better puzzles in Little Nightmares 1 and Little Nightmares 2. And I think it's unfortunate that they didn't make the best out of the co-op in this game. There wasn't really many instances where it was put to very good use. It was nice to drive the tank and then your friend shoots the tank. When you pilot the boat, it lets one guy like look around with the camera, and it's like, that's just kind of disorienting and doesn't really lead to any fun moments of synergy. Only really leads to awkward moments of like misdirection and maybe a little laugh. There are some cute things like how you can like slide and trip each other, but overall, both the combat and the puzzles did not blow me away here. And I think about something like Little Nightmares 2, which was my favorite of the Little Nightmares games. Still is, obviously. Like when you go for the porcelain children, for example, in the school level, they're awkward to fight. They're difficult to fight. If you see a big group of them, you're kind of shitting yourself thinking, like, trying to psych yourself up for like, okay, how am I going to defeat this crowd? In this game, it kind of felt like I could run up a little 20v1 with those clay kids. And it wasn't even hard. Like, I was just spamming the square button, which I didn't really appreciate. And furthermore, in that game, on the topic of the clay kids, there was something in Little Nightmares 1 where every enemy had like a pronounced weakness. The chefs, there were 2 of them, and they were like pretty aggressive, but they were stubby and they had trouble like reaching under the tables and whatnot. With the janitor, obviously he was fast and he could reach anywhere, but he was blind, so you're able to walk right in front of him as long as you're being silent. With the guests, they're very fast and very aggressive, but they're like clumsy and they easily get caught on stuff. Like every enemy had like a clear weakness that you had to exploit when navigating rooms with them in it, and they would like stalk you down and you'd have to spend very extended periods of time in those rooms. And there were flashes of this at the beginning of Reanimal with the sniffer guy who's like irons out the clothes. Or irons out the people's skins into clothes. It was sort of like redundant imagery. Like it was, a lot of this game is just stuff you've seen before in the other 2 games. And I kind of felt that, Little Nightmares 2 perfected the formula. I didn't really need to see any more Little Nightmares after that, even though I love the game and I wouldn't complain about it. And this is sort of exactly that. It's like you get more of the same, but I'm not sure if it's quite up to quality because, as I was saying, Little Nightmares 1, they all have those weaknesses that you have to exploit, and it gives the bosses personality. In Little Nightmares 2, they made the bosses even more terrifying and made you have to sneak around them by not giving them as many weaknesses, however populating their levels with like little minions that did keep the gameplay diverse and fresh and varied. For example, in the school, there was the porcelain children. In the DLC of the first game, there was the shadow children you had to flash the light on, just as you did the geisha. In the hospital, there was the mannequins that chase you around, and then in the Thin Man's level, there was the viewers, the people with the TV heads who would chase you. And it was like there were these smaller, less capable enemies who kept keep the gameplay exciting while letting the bosses aura farm and be as terrifying as possible. This game kind of had the worst of both worlds, where the bosses don't really show themselves like that much. There's not many levels and areas where like the AI of the bosses gets shown off the way it did in the first few Little Nightmares games, where it truly feels like they're hunting and stalking you down. It's more so set pieces, set pieces, occasional boss fights, which can kind of be fun, but also once again, a lot of the gameplay mechanics and combat in this game are a bit half-baked. I feel like this game's not challenging enough to truly be as scary as it could be. Though of course there's a delicate line there. You don't want to just turn it into a game where you can't win and you're like raging and it stops even being scary and intimidating and starts just being frustrating. But I definitely don't think it was anywhere near that level, and I think it could have used to be a bit more difficult. I would say that... What the hell is wrong with my computer? Alright, sorry about that. I would say that it's a bit more similar to something like Bramble, in the sense that the bosses are introduced and then quickly have some sort of unique... Oh my god, my cat just jumped on my mic. Okay, Kat, you gotta chill the fuck out. I know you need attention 24/7 under all circumstances, but you need to chill out while I film this fucking 15-minute rant, okay? um, it was more like something like Bramble, where, yeah, the boss is introduced, there's some sort of set piece, there's some sort of boss fight, and then you move on very quick. This game is not long. It's longer than Little Nightmares 1, but that's it, you know. None of these Little Nightmares games are that long, but the $40 price tag really was throwing me off here. And don't get me wrong, beautiful production in certain respects. Absolutely beautiful production in certain respects. I liked a lot of the monster design. I liked some of the levels. I liked a lot of the imagery, but I just can't say this game was as good as Little Nightmares or Little Nightmares 2. The way people are glazing it and hyping it up to be. But I guess I would say Little Nightmares 1 and Little Nightmares 2 didn't necessarily have like revolutionary stories. A lot of them were about like the cycle of trauma, which, you know, is something that I've heard a ton of times right now, and like people succumbing to greed, imagery of, you know, like television zombifying people, suicidal ideation and stuff like that, greed, gluttony, all that good stuff that we've seen many times over. I never thought those games had an amazing story, but they never really purported to, and I found them to be atmospherically chilling and have like just absolutely impeccable art design, symbolism, and, you know, really importantly, gameplay. Like in Little Nightmares 2, it's pseudo co-op. This game had a taller order in terms of making a fully functional online and couch co-op system. But in that game, like, a lot of the single scariest area in that game was the hospital, where you have to like go through all the mannequins, and it's like they strategically set up a lot of the most intimidating, horrifying parts of that game to be where you're alone. So where when you reunite with your buddy, it feels like a genuine source of comfort. You feel like you want to rejoice. You see them as like a symbol of safety and victory and all that stuff, and it sort of strengthens your relationship with them, which makes the ultimate betrayal by the end of the game all the more impactful and poignant. This game, you know, the co-op puzzles, there's barely any to speak of. A lot of times there's a lot of like half-baked mechanics. Even like it introduces guns to the game, as my friend was pointing out to me, and it's just one room where there's just a guy holding a key, and you just pick up a gun and you shoot him, and you can like fuck around and shoot each other a little bit. But other than that, no more guns for the rest of the game. You get it for what ultimately can be like 25 seconds. Not even a puzzle. Like a half a puzzle that doesn't even count as a puzzle. And that's it. That's the entire mechanic. I felt that way about the horse. I felt that way about the albatross. I felt that way about a lot of things. Like there were many cool moments in this game, but they ultimately felt half-baked compared to what I would see in Little Nightmares or Little Nightmares 2, where every scene really seems to mean something. There's a lot of puzzles in this game where it'll like show you the key before it shows you the puzzle, which wasn't very charming. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't want to act like I didn't like this game, because I really did. I think it captured a lot of the magic in the Little Nightmares games in a way that Little Nightmares 3 didn't. I can tell it's the same studio. I think it's a worthy successor. I'm going to be interested enough to play the DLC. But everyone calling it like just like it succeeded where Little Nightmares failed and all that kind of stuff, I don't really resonate with that at all. In terms of the enemy design, in terms of the level design, in terms of the theming, in terms of really anything. So I want you guys to let me know what you think down below. I know people really enjoy this game, but yeah. Let me know what you think. My cat's attacking me. My cat's playing with me. My cat's being a little goober. So I gotta go talk to this crazy animal. And yeah, fuck the game for that glitch that it left in after charging $40 for a fucking 3-hour experience, and you can't even beat the final level. Fuck it. Also, apologies for the abhorrent mic quality, but what was that thing they did at the end where they sort of like bit off the cyclical storytelling they were doing in Little Nightmares 2, which I didn't even really love from that game. That was not my favorite part of that game. It's just like, I don't know. I feel like there were a lot of points here where I felt that it was a bit redundant with a slightly new coat of paint. It just feels like Little Nightmares 2.5 and not in a great way. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys have to say. Blech.